Well, hello. I'm just wanting to introduce a new initiative that we're hoping to introduce to the intensive care called Learning from Excellence, which originated in PRCU in Birmingham. I'll let the kind of founder of it talk to you about it in a minute. But hopefully, what we'll do is we'll start this in Chester, and I'll explain why after a word from Adrian Plunkett, who is the sort of the founder of the motion, if you like.
Okay, thank you very much. Like some of the other speakers, I'm a smack virgin, so thank you for having me. And I was just reflecting on the last couple of days while I've been here, surrounded by enthusiasts and listening to people who are really inspiring. I've become aware of a new sensation, and that's I can't wait to get back to work, put it all into practice. So I'm going to tell you about Learning from Excellence, which is an initiative we've started in our hospital, but I'll just start the whole story by telling you how it all came about. So about 6 years ago, it was just after I'd become a consultant actually, I found out I had cancer. So that's a bit of a shock and a bit of a strange way to start a presentation. But don't worry, it was a good cancer. So if you're going to have cancer, you should probably have what I had, which was testicular cancer seminoma. And I've realised that's not an available diagnosis for everybody in the room, so apologies for that. But I was lucky, and I spent a few weeks, in fact about 3 months in total, off work. I had one complication along the way, but I really came out almost completely unscathed. But the point was I spent a lot of time during that 3 months interacting with healthcare professionals. I became a patient or user of healthcare as opposed to a provider. And I realised that I was experiencing a lot of good care and a little bit of not so good care and a little bit of really excellent care. And it was that excellent care that left its mark on me. So there's one episode that was so good, I met a junior doctor, so a registrar in respiratory medicine, who was so fantastic. He was compassionate and competent in sort of equal measure, which I think is one of my definitions of excellence. And he was so good that after I left hospital, I wrote to the chief executive officer of the trust. So I spoke to the boss of the hospital, wrote a letter citing this individual and showing my appreciation and gratitude. Please, can you make sure that he knows about this? Because it felt like the right thing to do. And I felt good for doing that, actually. And I went back to work and got back to my life. And then, by complete coincidence, about 2 years later, I bumped into this individual at a meeting. We were both presenting some research and we had a common interest. And we recognised each other. And after the meeting, we got together and reminisced about my time in hospital. And I said, thanks again, I assume you got that letter. And he said, no, I never got the letter. And it made me realise that we don't value appreciation and gratitude enough. And then I went back to work, and with this new mindset, I realised we don't value appreciation and gratitude between ourselves as well. So it's not just between patients and staff, it's between colleagues. And I think we should start to look at the really good stuff and appreciate it more. Because this excellence that we see every day is really valuable. If we start to look at it, I have a contention that two things would happen. One is that we would learn new insights. We would start to discover why things are going really well, and we don't tend to look at that, so we would learn new things. And the second thing is that the morale of the staff would increase because we'd be showing direct feedback to each other. We don't tend to do that, so let's look at what we tend to do at the moment. This is a theoretical distribution of probability produced by Eric Holnagel, who's a leading thinker in safety. And on the left is bad care, on the right is exceptionally good care, and in the middle is everything in between. And of course, all of this leads to success, but we tend to spend all our time trying to improve things, trying to improve safety, improve quality, by looking at what's going wrong. And if the obvious problem with that, if you can spot the flaw, is that's a very small part of our system. Bob Weers apparently said this, and Bob Weers is one of Holnagel's colleagues in the literature and another leading thinker in safety, trying to understand safety by looking at incidents. And he means adverse incidents. It's like trying to understand sharks by only looking at shark attacks. it's a really nice analogy because, again, it's only a tiny part of our system. Can we look across the whole system? But before we think about how we could do that, let's just think about why it is we don't look at the good stuff. So does anyone feel uncomfortable with this sentence? And most of you will have spotted one or two or maybe three mistakes. And the point of this is that you actually probably couldn't help yourself identifying them. It's inbuilt. You have an innate ability to spot mistakes. And you owe that to your evolution, and you owe that to your education. This is another good example. Slightly more subtle, but again it tends to cause a bit of discomfort. So if you ask people what's the most notable thing about this slide, what most people will say is the most notable thing here is that one of the sums is wrong. But what people tend not to say is the most notable thing about this slide is 4 of the sums are correct. And if you think about it, that is 4 times more valuable as a piece of information. That relates to this. This is something called prospect theory, or a related theory called loss aversion, which is a theory produced by Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize winner. And what this graph shows, and what his theory states, is that we attribute more value to loss than we do to an equivalent amount of gain. So we think losing things is worse than gaining the same amount. And this applies to how we deal with risk, not just in finances, but also in everyday life. So another way of thinking about that is that we think things are worse than they are, or as Jimmy Connors put it, I hate to lose more than I love to win. So we've got this negativity bias I'm describing. We can't help spotting errors. We overvalue it. But worst of all, we're addicted to negativity. We're addicted to errors. We're addicted to anomalies. These are the top 10 news stories from the BBC website taken a few weeks ago. It's the same every day. This is actually a good day because there's a couple of good stories. If we look down the list, this one's negative, this one's negative. This one's about kindness, so it's a positive story. It's extremely unusual to get one in the top 3. This one's negative. This one, a man who has photographed every train station in Great Britain. I'm not sure if that's positive or negative, but it makes me feel a bit sad. This one's negative about death. There's another positive story, then it's another death. So most of them are about negativity. Now, some of you will be familiar with something called the Daily Mail, which is a phenomenon in Britain. It's a newspaper, and I put in Daily Mail headlines into Google search, and this is the images that came up. And you probably can't read them all, but the point is these are all negative, and not only are they negative, they're actually sensationalist. My personal favourite is there no one left in Britain who can make a sandwich. So this is front page news. Now, for me, the penny dropped when I read that and related headlines, because I realised this isn't news, this isn't helpful, this is entertainment. And I started to worry, actually, is there some sort of entertainment in spotting mistakes and spotting errors? Is there some sort of voyeuristic satisfaction in it? Does that apply to us in the workplace? Interestingly, if you look at social media, the headlines on social media tend to be positive. And I think that's because we're talking about ourselves. Anyway, let's come back to healthcare. So what does this do? This fascination with the negative, what does this do to us when we're dealing with safety and quality improvement and trying to make things better? We've created a culture which is negative. If you look at the language that underpins our efforts to make things better, they tend to have negative associations. So I think language is a really good idea of trying to describe an underlying culture. So these words, adverse events, error, risk, IR1 and DATIX are reporting systems that we use in the UK. I'm not sure what we use around the world. And these have become part of our vocabulary. So IR1 is what we use in our institution, is a noun. If I make a mistake, I will complete an IR1 form and that will go to the safety team. And now it's become verbified, so if we use it so much, I'll say, you need to IR1 that. Or someone will say, you need to IR1 that. And then someone says, I'm sorry, Dr. Plunkett, I need to IR1 you. And I've heard someone talking about the weaponized IR1. So this reporting system has a very negative feel about it. SIRI, serious incident requiring investigation. Imagine if we had a serious incident requiring investigation that was a positive or an excellent outcome. a never event. I think this is exclusive to the NHS, a strange concept. These are a list of events that must never happen. What does this do to us psychologically? If I make a mistake, my patient is a victim. I become a second victim because I will beat myself up, I'll feel bad about it, and then that second victim phenomenon, which is well described in the literature, can be exacerbated by the patient safety investigation process itself. And people are now talking about the third victim and the fourth victim. So if I am the second victim, my wife and children become involved, my next patient becomes involved, my colleagues become involved. So how can we redress the balance? How can we look at this side? Because this is my contention, is that we should look at this for the reasons I said at the start. We'll learn new things and we'll make ourselves feel better. The problem is that it's difficult to describe excellence. If I ask 100 people, what do you think excellence in the workplace is in healthcare, you'll get 100 different answers. But if I ask the same 100 people, have you seen excellence in the workplace in healthcare, they'll all say yes. So with that in mind, people can't really say what it is, but they know it when they see it. We created Learning from Excellence. This is a reporting system for reporting something excellent that you've seen in the workplace. And I should say at this point, this is really not just about our initiative. This is about a social movement. So there are other institutions. In Leicester, they've started Greatix, which is a great datix. And in Southampton, in the UK, they have favourable event reporting. And I heard the other day that in University of Wisconsin, they have a high-five reporting system. So there are some of these systems out there. What ours looks like, in fact, what they all look like, is a very simple reporting form. We do ours online, and it asks really two simple questions. Who did something excellent, and what did they do? There's a bit of other data we collect, but that's the most important thing. And it's free text. It's open text. There's no categorization. You can write what you like. You can write a paragraph, a sentence, an essay. We also asked one other question, which I call the insight box. We asked you as the reporter to say, have you got any insights as to how we can do more of this? And that's often full of interesting information. But the most important part of this, and this is the take-home message, the most important part is that this text gets sent to the person or the team who are mentioned in the report, verbatim. It gets copied through our governance system, so they get a formalised electronic report or certificate direct to them. So this is a formal system for providing positive feedback and appreciation. So people always want to know, what do people report? We've been doing this for 2 years. We've got over 900 reports now. And we started putting them into categories and themes, and I realised when we got to about 30 or 40 themes that we were still adding to that. So actually that is not that useful. And in fact, if you do it in your institutions, you may encounter different themes. But there are some features that I think are worth pointing out. Firstly, no one reported themselves. Now, I've talked about this quite a lot now over the last year, and I get a question every now and then, don't people just report themselves? Which is fine, they can do, there's nothing to stop them doing it. The people who ask me that are always surgeons. Now, that's true. I don't know what that means, but no one has done yet. The reports tend to, although they name an individual or team, they always focus on what happened. So it's what that person did, it's not who they are. So it's not, John is really good, he did a good job. It's, John did this amazing job, and this is why it was helpful. And this ties in to motivation. So I was describing this initiative to someone the other day who very eloquently came back to me and said, what you've created is something that's more motivational than informational. And as I said, there's many, many themes. These are some examples reports. So this is a consultant reporting bedside nurse, a senior doctor reporting a junior nurse. These are just quotes taken from some of the reports. So this nurse took her own initiative. So no one asked her to do this. She designed a weaning plan for a ventilated patient who was outside the ICU. And this was useful. This report highlighted something that was useful. It's now in practice. And think how encouraged this nurse must be. Another example of innovation. So a lot of the reports capture innovation, people coming up with new things. This report went the other way around. So it's a junior member of staff reporting a consultant who decided one day just to change the ward around, and with a good result. These are my favourite reports. These come in quite regularly. This is one junior nurse reporting another junior nurse saying, during a busy shift, this nurse took the time to communicate, was compassionate, was kind, this family was comforted, there was empathy and kindness. And you think this is all very nice and soft intelligence. How can we act on this? What's the actionable intelligence from this sort of report? And I think the action's already been done. So the appreciation has already been shown. And I think more and more as I go through this initiative and as I go through life, I realise that this soft stuff is the hard stuff. One more. So this just shows that there's an overlap between what we're doing in conventional safety. So this is a consultant, again, reporting a very junior nurse on an intensive care ward round, and noted that the nurse had correctly identified a drug error before it reached the patient. So this is something that we traditionally call a near miss, and it makes you think you can report near misses and adverse safety events with this emphasis. That something good happened rather than something bad may have happened. And also challenged very appropriately about a medical decision, so suggesting that there was a flat hierarchy that day on that ward round, which is worthy of note. We've noticed there's a ripple effect, so people who get reported, I look at the data, start to then appear in the reporting column. And in fact, that ripple effect has now spread throughout our entire hospital. So these are monthly frequency statistics for our reporting system. As I said, it's been going 2 years. It started off with a very slow trickle, and then about a year ago it tipped, and it started to increase. And the red bars on here are the reports that come from outside intensive care. And we started it in intensive care, so it's rippled out. And this is voluntary. No one's being told they need to do this. It's just there, it's available if you want to do it. Some of you will be asking, that's fine, I get it. Can you prove to me that it changes behaviour? My normal answer to that is, I don't think we should necessarily. I think it just works. The very fact that the frequency is increasing suggests that it has validity. But nevertheless, we came up with a pilot study, and in fact this has led to something potentially quite exciting. So this study, PRIP, is positive reporting and prescribing. We took something that's very, very tangible and easy to measure, so we took a documentation of antibiotics. So something really easy to measure. We use old-fashioned paper prescribing. And we defined an extremely strict version of what a perfect prescription is, and then we measured the prevalence of that, and it was about 20% of prescriptions. Then we did positive reporting. We didn't do any negative reporting. We didn't show anything that wasn't going well. We only did positive reporting. And after a couple of weeks we remeasured it, and the prevalence of perfect prescribing had doubled. It was statistically significant, but more importantly I think it was just generally significant. And what's interesting is some of the perfect reporters were not necessarily ones who'd been, some of the perfect prescribers were not necessarily some of the ones who'd been reported, so potentially there was a ripple effect there. This is now featuring in some grant applications, so we're trying now to try and prove this in a formal way. Some of the reports come in and they're so interesting and so valuable, you think we need to really actually study that and try and do some wider learning from what happened. And so we've done 12 of these meetings now. We take a reporter and a reported team and other stakeholders who are interested, and we have a roundtable discussion for approximately 1 hour to talk about what happened and what can we learn from that and what could we do to create more of that. And we use something called appreciative inquiry. So I discovered this along the way. I met a social scientist called Simon Blake who's working with us now. And what that is unusual and a privilege as a doctor, medical doctor, to work with a social scientist. And he's got expertise in appreciative inquiry, and we've been learning this. And appreciative inquiry, if you're not familiar with it, is just a structured dialogue, but you ask questions, and all the questions are positive, and you end up whipping up a bit of positivity in the room. In Britain, it takes a bit of extra whippage because we're inherently quite cynical. But the point is, appreciative inquiry doesn't look at what's missing; it looks at what you've got. And my favourite part of the appreciative inquiry process is this question, and I think it's worth asking yourself this now, and your colleagues, and when you go back to work. Imagine you had 3 wishes to do more of what's good in your organisation. What would they be? So, as I said, this is more of a social movement. This isn't just our initiative. We've got a website and a blog where we promote what we're doing, but we also share work from others. So if you are interested, please come along and join this conversation, learningfromexcellence.com. And I want to end with 2 quotes. This is from Sir Alex Ferguson, probably the most successful football manager ever. The 2 most powerful words in the English language are well done. And the final quote is from my wife, who I probably don't appreciate enough, saying thank you or well done might be the simplest quality improvement intervention of all. Thank you.
So that's essentially the lecture that we had at a recent AJ GBI Core Topics Day. So he puts it a lot more eloquently than I can. But fundamentally, we'll just go through a bit of what we can do in Tester. So essentially, as Dr. Plunkett said, what's excellence? And essentially, excellence is whatever you think it is. And so what we'd be looking for in excellence reports is essentially more of the good stuff. If we see something that we'd like to see more of, then it's probably worth putting an excellence report in. And that could be the volunteer who answers the door briskly and sensibly manages a family. Or it could be the excellent cardiologist who comes exactly when we ask him to and doesn't echo and gives us a sensible opinion. Or it could be, the excellence shown when someone just goes a bit above and beyond what their kind of job role does. So anything that we want to see more of could merits an excellence report. So who can report excellence? So fundamentally, anyone who can report a Datix incident can report excellence. So absolutely anyone with access to a computer, and you don't actually even need a log-on, because on computers' home screens you can get to the Datix box, and you just go to the Datix form. The very first question is this a good thing or a bad thing? And if you select this is an excellence report, then it will take you through it. So anyone can report it. And as suggested in the lecture, it's very important that it's a cross kind of hierarchy thing. The very top of the hierarchy can report the very bottom. The bottom can to the top. You can report laterally. You can report yourself if you so wish. But so it's very important that anything we do on the intensive care that is seen to be, or it is felt to be good, that we want to see more of, merits an excellence report. Similarly, who can be reported? So we covered this a bit already. Anyone can have an excellence report, and there's no reason why we can't. While Adrian Plunkett talked about the weaponized Datix, we can use it as a tool. We can use it as to encourage good behaviour. An excellence report on the clinician who visited their patient every single day of their ICU admission, or an excellence report for the person who chaired the MDT when the relatives were becoming difficult and took over that care back to the ward. So anything we want to see more of, let's report that. So what's the process? The process, as we've covered a little bit already, it's the Datix box. So if you go to the Datix form, and the very first question is, is this a good or a bad thing? So submit the excellence report. Once it's been submitted, it goes to matron on ICU, so Debbie gets a copy. So anything, regardless of who it's about, goes to Debbie. So she sees all the excellence reports. It also goes to the individual who has been reported. So as on that presentation, if you submit an excellence report, the individual you are reporting gets a verbatim kind of copy of what you've said. So the senior nursing hierarchy gets to know about it, the individual gets to know about it, and it also goes to the practice development team in the education and training centre. So it goes outside the intensive care, gets looked at, and they will try and kind of assimilate what this report's about and see if that can then be incorporated into future teaching and training. So now, since starting this project, the kind of the intensive care team, so which is me, Kate Tizard, Karen McQueen, and Barbara Wood, we're the people who will be kind of reviewing these excellence reports. So we'll be looking at all of them and just trying to kind of tease out patterns. And as Dr. Plunkett suggested, if there's something that we think, actually, look, we could do more of this and we could highlight this, we will take that and convene an appreciative inquiry. So it's a bit like a serious untoward incident, but a seriously good incident inquiry, if you like. So we've gone through who gets that report, what's done with the report. We also plan to submit regular bulletins. So the individual who the report is about will get the verbatim comment. They know who's reported them. They will be told. What we then plan to generate is a summary of anonymised excellence reports to kind of just trickle down the good practice that is happening on the unit. So that'll happen probably every couple of months with some examples that I'll show you shortly. And what are the potential benefits? I mean, to my mind, the single big benefit is quality. So if we can find out what we're doing well and do more of it, that's the aim. The second main benefit is positive feedback to the staff. We all sometimes feel that we're kind of under the pump, underappreciated, a bit kind of worked off our feet. Now, as the final quote said, the thank you or well done is the most powerful quality improvement method there is. So number one benefit, quality, and number two benefit, positive feedback to staff. So here's just some examples. So these I've reviewed the last 10 excellence reports just to kind of get an idea of what sort of thing is happening. So this is about someone from Outreach. So saying, look, thanks very much. They support us. As a new nurse, it's fantastic to have them. The next one's about one of the nursing staff on the ward who took the initiative to kind of understand why we were doing this differently, understand why this might help this patient, learned that physiotherapy could only come once a day at the weekend, so ensured that physiotherapy could teach the bedside nurse, and really committed to finding what we could do to help this patient improve beyond what is kind of normal practice on the ICU. So there's no reason why a whole shift of people. So this is an excellent report about the ICU night shift who allowed, I think, released 4 people that evening to go and kind of assist with overflow beds. So that's a thanks for the kind of ICU night shift. But that also kind of gets back to the practice development team, and it rings bells to say, why are they stealing 4 of ICU staff? So all these reports, while positive, do kind of highlight some of the issues that we keep talking about. Oh, sorry about that. That one was all about one of the medical staff who was just took an hour out of the ward round to kind of talk to one of the long stay patients, and actually found out what they thought and made a real effort to see what we could do other than the medical things to try and improve their stay on intensive care. Again, this is another kind of thanks to one of the nursing staff who went to what sounded like an extremely busy ward, got on with it, worked hard, and ITU are lucky to have this person as part of their team. Now, great for that individual. That's a real kind of pat on the back, and great for our senior nursing staff to say, actually, what, we've got some pretty impressive staff around. So perhaps motivated to look after them and kind of see if we can kind of do more of what we're doing to try and further recruit that quality of staff. So what now? Where are we going? What's the plan? So hopefully nothing should change other than raising the awareness of we can do excellence reports. So we need to use the DASIC system to submit excellence reports. And if you think something was done very well, please submit an excellence report. The team that I mentioned will be reviewing them. The individual will be informed as normal. There'll be regular anonymised updates to everyone, probably kind of circulated in the regular kind of staff updates. And where we the sort of the team involved in the project will be changing things slightly, is that if we kind of come across an excellent report that we think, look, actually, we could do a lot more of this, and here's how we can do it, we'll convene an appreciative inquiry and try and disseminate some of the learning from that. So there will be some posters up and around the region. I would encourage you to go to the Learning from Excellence website. There's a lot of really good resource there that we can get involved in. So hopefully it's a kind of a positive project to improve quality and help with staff morale.